Welcome to the Legacy of Luxury. Today we are talking about sports. And we are talking about sports because I could not imagine a thing that went from complete bare bones to such a luxury experience like it is now and created such a massive industry where the valuations, I think the most recent one, what was it? The Celtics, $9.2 billion for the valuation. If you think about the wealth generation, and look, like most things, if you think about a car, the first car you ever drove to the car you drive now, even if it was the same model, how much more luxurious we've gotten. Yeah. We always move up market, and that's part of the beauty of capitalism, right? Yeah. Is there's incentive for people to always be pushing boundaries. So we're going to talk about sports. We're going to talk about the sports partnerships we have. Yeah. We're going to talk about some of the experiences that we've had going to national championships and World Series. Yeah. And it's not to gloat, right? Like no, but it's to talk about scale.
Listen, it's fascinating. I mean, listen, get your kids to a high school football stadium so they can see what we sat in at Fulton County Stadium.
Dude, do you know what Milton High School just spent on their football stadium?
No.
How about this? take a guess of what Milton High School spent on their football stadium.
A few $million.
62, and it was Buford High School. Buford, $62 million.
You're kidding.
To make a high school program, a high school football and athletics program thing.
Never mind. I take that back.
$1 million.
Maybe go to Riverwood Stadium.
So let's rewind, and then we're going to catch up to where we are. Okay. So, and I'm going to say this because I didn't know this. College football started in the 1890s, like 1880s. Some of those, and Tech was one of those original programs. They have been playing since the 18.
Go Dogs. We're in there too.
1800s. Okay. So think about the experience of playing in the late 1800s to going to a game at Sanford Stadium now, okay? Oh. So we're going to skip the 1800s and the early 1900s because I'm not going to pretend I know or want to even look
we don't get to talk about Hurdy Field at Athens.
But let's start really around the 1940s, 50s, like coming out of World War II when we started our status as a global power and everything. But if you think about like baseball in that time frame, I mean, up until the 80s, they let you in Wrigley Field to sit on benches with your shirts off. Like dudes were just sitting there, beer bellies hanging out with a beer in their hand, bellies hanging out watching baseball. Think about if that happened nowadays, right? They'd call child services. Yeah. Like it would be like, what the heck is going on here? So some of those evolutions, and I think all sports have been different, but the NFL is going to be the one that is going to always come back to it as being the leader on all this evolution. Yeah. But talk about a little bit about your first memories of going to sporting events, because I did it in New York, you did it here, right? Completely, probably different experiences. Talk about some of your earliest memories, and I'll kind of talk about some of mine.
For sure. No, listen, Fulton County Stadium, I was just a young boy and, going to games there, whether it be Braves or Falcons. And it was pretty cool. But I was super young. So I really was in the era of when the Georgia Dome was built. Yeah. And that was really cool to see that. And that was like a whole thing. Grew up going to the Omni. Where, go Knights for all my hockey fans out there. Yep. And, but, it was just bare bones. You walk up, get some popcorn and, get a soda, and everything was somewhat affordable.
Somewhat affordable. You used to be able to get in the stadium for like $4.
But it's cool. And hats off, it's kind of funny for Mercedes-Benz Stadium, not to fast forward too much, but everything's so affordable there as far as food goes, right? And Arthur did a great job there, but you can't sit between the 30-yard lines, unless you're corporate.
That's not to mention the Ticketmaster fees to get the tickets and the transfer fees and look, I think we're going to get to that part because I think that there is a tipping point coming. And I'm not going to be stupid enough to guess when it is, but I think the signs of it are already starting to show their faces. I'll go back. So, being in New York is a little bit different only because of Madison Square Garden, right? Yeah. Because 16 million people can take a train to an arena. Yeah. So it's just not quite the same experience. That thing has been sold out with one of the worst teams in the histories of sports since the 50s. It has been sold out. Yeah. But, I remember going to Shea Stadium. Shea Stadium was a blue circle made of concrete. We would sit in the upper deck because we didn't have money. And my grandfather would literally, as a Yankee fan, would throw peanuts on the floor because he hated the Mets so much. And he would just eat the peanuts and just throw them on the floor. And that was the baseball experience. Yeah. But if you think about how many people used to have their scorecards, and we're actually scoring games.
Yeah.
Now you see like a couple of 6 weirdos in a stadium. Every old man used to be sitting there scoring the game, ready to throw it at the umps were doing the wrong thing.
Listening to the radio in the stadium.
In the stadium. and look, that doesn't even cover, you're right, the TV broadcast and the radio broadcast, and how that's changed. But I would say it really was kind of probably your and I formative years where this really started changing, right?
Yeah.
So I do remember, and you could probably talk about Sanford and Stegeman, but when I went to University of Maryland, and this was a year we won a national championship, their basketball arena, Cole Fieldhouse, when you stomped the floor, the whole arena would shake. and it made the game.
Yeah.
Like the thought that this could topple down at any time made that game so much more. And it was a really good team, but even that, I think that was kind of the culmination point where it started just accelerating the pace of we got to get bigger. Season tickets became more of a priority, and it also followed the wealth curve of the country.
Yeah.
We really came out of that 80s stagflation, all the Reagan policies of loosening up the economy and everything up. So talk about going to Sanford Stadium, for example.
Yeah, no, listen, my favorite place on earth. But you still, the nice thing about Sanford, right? You still got the hard, bleacher seating, and it's still there. But they've now made a new hospitality area up top. They're redoing the suites. They've added on. Just the amount of seats that they're adding in, right, to make it more. And it's just been this race, the jumbotrons and the whole thing. They got the red lights at night. Versus. When I was going there growing up, it was just about the football. And, that's the one thing that I'll say about this episode that I find so interesting is my memories, and I don't know what my, kids are going to think, but my memories of going to games was with my dad and my brothers, and we were going for the game.
Yeah.
And we were around other people.
Yeah.
And we had season tickets to the Hawks.
Yeah.
My dad, my oldest brother, big Hawks fans, obviously big Dominique fans, who isn't. And you sat around the same people, and you were there for the game. You didn't even know if this guy was a banker or a doctor or this and that. You were all there. You were, funny enough, this is a part of it. I guess I go back to of wearing jerseys. You don't see that many people wearing jerseys anymore.
Yeah,
because it's so corporate.
It'll come back. That'll come back. I think that's some cyclicality. To
even
it.
Me, right? Like when I go somewhere, it's like I'm wearing either a collared shirt or something, and it's like just a different kind of feel today than it was.
Well,
back
and
then.
so it's an important point, but I will say, and I have a pretty decent sports understanding, but so when you go to, each sport has a different contingency, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to a baseball game, no one's wearing a jersey because they're not there for the player. They're there for the team.
Right.
So that's why the hat is so pervasive, right? When you go to a basketball game, you will go see stars, even if they're not on your team.
Yeah.
So there are so many jerseys because the star, it's the name on the back that is what the thing is, right? The NFL, you're just going because it's the NFL. Right. You'll go to any game, anywhere, you'll watch it because it's the NFL.
Yeah.
And honestly, how they've been able to do it is a show of in itself. But so, you really started seeing, it also followed the rise of sponsorship. Because what happened was all of a sudden, you were being more intrusive. You were asking for higher ticket prices, so they had to invest more in that fan experience. And I also think, you're going to be bad teams sometimes. The ebbs and flows. So if you are not making a product, what happens when you're the Oakland Athletics, when 800 people are in the stadium, right? 2,000 people, or Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make the fan experience. Say what you will about the Hawks, are a great example, right? But that experience keeps people coming back, even though I think they're going to have a hell of a squad this year. I really do.
Shout out to my boy Steve Koonin over at the Hawks, but that's exactly right. He is the king of entertainment, and that's what you're planning for. It's a great point that you make. It's like you can't plan to always be great. Things are going to happen. Injuries are going to happen. You got to have an entertaining product if you want people to keep coming. But you're right. Sponsorships, if it's not entertaining, people aren't going to spend the money.
Yeah, and it's odd because I saw it from the other side. I booked sponsorships between music and it has gotten to the point now where there are enough sponsors available that they can be a little bit more stringent. That being said, we can be a little bit more stringent into who we partner with. So there is a little bit more, and that's where I believe we've gotten to the point now where we have reached a tipping point where the teams, the ones with the biggest egos, are going to keep having those egos.
Right.
But it changes real fast.
Yeah.
You become a losing team, you lose 3 or 4 of those big sponsors, all of a sudden it changes. And understanding those dynamics and how NIL plays in college. I mean, there's just so much with any mega business. But think about it.
Would you say that baseball is like, because I'm just thinking about it from our Atlanta perspective, and we're talking about how entertaining the Hawks games are and what Steve has done over there. And you talk about the NFL, and, fantasy football is going to keep the NFL going forever, if nothing else. But, baseball, it's almost like there's so many games, right? And there's so much going on. If your team becomes bad, it's probably the toughest organization to run across the world. I'm not talking about the Braves, everyone.
I can't tell you why, but I feel like fans have the most obligation towards baseball. I feel like as much as football's an American thing, I feel like there are so many people that are like, I need to preserve baseball.
Yeah.
I think because of how the history behind it and because, again, those teams are so important, I think baseball actually, out of all of them, has the easiest path forward, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Because they have so much room to grow, and there are so many parts of the world where people haven't even started playing baseball yet.
Yeah.
If you think about, like, the Dominican Republic and Cuba, like, think about Venezuela. Think about a guy like Acuna in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know how many countries there are in South America? What if they all start playing baseball?
Yeah.
There's so much room. Really, the NFL can't go much further unless we start making European leagues and stuff.
Wow.
So, and I'm not saying, like, the NBA, man, you have tapped every part of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Eastern European kids that are the best players on earth. Who would have ever thought that was going to happen?
I think you're right. I'm just saying, like, from the Stars' perspective, because you brought up a great point, and it's like, I'm a big Falcons fan, but when I saw that Jared Allen and the Bills are coming to town, like, I want to go to that game.
Right.
Because I want to see them play.
Right.
I don't necessarily want to see the Falcons
and
play.
I don't know who I was talking to this yesterday, but Shohei Ohtani is probably going to end up being, as long as he doesn't get hurt, probably, because you can't compare Babe Ruth to what's going on right now. He will probably be, of a generation, the single greatest baseball player. And it's almost a joke if you look at it. The only thing getting in his way is Aaron Judge, but he's older. Okay,
right.
And he doesn't pitch. But if you go to a game and you want to see Shohei, you know what you're going to realize? That it looks the exact same as anyone else playing baseball.
Right.
You're going to go up there. He might hit a home run, but 1 out of 3 times he's not even going to do it. 2 or 3 times he's not doing anything.
That's right.
So then it's such a game of small numbers that even as exciting as it is, it doesn't look any different than regular baseball.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, the stars in football and basketball get to be stars every game, especially in basketball. When you had LeBron coming to town, that he was going to drop 40, and that was exciting.
For sure.
For
sure. But that being said, this comes down to, because of the history of it, the players' union in baseball is so much stronger, which is why those guaranteed contracts are there, that if your kid is an athlete right now and you're watching, yes, there are guys getting $60 million contracts in the NBA. Don't get me wrong. But you are ask Jason Tatum, one Achilles tear away from never getting that contract again.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be a half of a moron to injure yourself playing baseball. Right? Like, there's bad things that happen, and you'll get a tear. But if you, like, tear a muscle running the bases, like, shame on you, man. Like, I'm just saying. So if you were putting your resources into a sport, wouldn't you wouldn't you play baseball?
Yeah. I play golf. So.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And golf is a different thing, right? You're born with the skill set to play baseball. You're not born with the skill set to play golf.
But gosh, and I'll let you move on to your next one. But golf, funny enough, just by the way, you want to talk about sponsorships?
Oh my God.
And corporate? I mean, golf, no one watches it on TV.
No.
And these guys, I mean, Scotty Scheffler's going to make, 50, 60, 70 million dollars on course?
Yeah.
On course this year? I mean,
homeboy's on fire, though, man.
That's not...
Since Tiger went on his dominant streak, this is the most dominant streak golf has seen in quite some time. And look, we're going to get into that's a marketing conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I will pay exponentially more for a lead of someone who can buy a $100,000 diamond than a lead for somebody who can buy a $100 diamond.
Yeah.
Right? So when you think about the spending power, and golf can really reach them. Every team on earth, every sport is going to tell you who they reach, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the average income, if you really look at it, of golf probably is not that much higher than the average income. But when you take out that top tier and the bottom tier of it, that's when you really
golf is much better,
right? Because the highest tier is high and the lowest tier is high.
Yeah.
Right. When you add in the NFL, I mean, there are people who are poverty-stricken that are watching the NFL on an antenna TV all the time. Right. Very few of those people are turning on golf.
Yeah.
Fair
enough.
So look, what's really important here is let's talk a little bit about. So even before I started, you had your Braves deal. You were negotiating with Georgia. Talk about how important it is to your business. Talk about why you do it, and then let's talk a little bit about the partnerships, because I don't think we've had a chance to really let people know the thought process that went behind them.
For sure. I was actually talking about this with another jeweler the other day, and he's in Florida, and we're here in Atlanta, but and we both do sports sponsorships, and I think number one, I associate the brands. I hope I'm not wrong, but I associate the Atlanta Braves with trust and confidence and been here forever and
pedigree.
A good pedigree. Thank you, Nick. This is why you're the best moderator that there is.
Pedigree.
And by associating yourself with them, you hope that someone walking into Solomon Brothers that maybe just moved to Atlanta, we're a very transient city, that sees, oh, wow, they're the jeweler of the Atlanta Braves. I was actually out of the office last week, and I met somebody out, and I just handed them my card and had the Braves logo on my card. And he was like, oh, wow, you're the preferred jeweler of the Atlanta Braves? Like, I'll definitely shop with you.
Yeah.
And it's not because he's a big Braves fan. Yeah. It's because that the validity that it brought to my business card just alone. So I think that's was number one. I don't know if that's the most important thing, but that was what came to my mind.
Well, if it's the most important or not, it's the hardest thing to measure. Right? That's the difference between being a president owner of a company who is one of the people that you hear that stuff that validates it versus being somebody who's in an ivory tower trying to justify everything based on a dollar amount quotient. Yeah. Right? Like you got to pick those fights. And this is not a criticism of the Hawks by any way. And I'm a diehard NBA guy. Yeah. But that same pedigree is not even close with the two organizations. No. And you can't control for a lot of those things. Yeah. Right? But it's one, winning changes everything. Yeah. Right? Two, consistency changes everything. And the Braves have been, if anything, consistent over their tenure. So I think that's one. And I think the other one is that you want, I don't want to say guilty by association, but everyone's decision probably comes down to one or two little things, right? The more of those things that we have in an advantage over a competitor, and it's more so not when you're 21. Right? Yeah. When I was 21, I was like, that's how much cheaper? F that thing. But as you age into wanting things that are easier for you and more convenient and more value, that's when I think those partnerships really become valuable. It's like, wait a second, they trust the Braves? Like, I used to sell 6 Day Fan. I've probably done it to you. Yeah. I would walk in and I'd be like, yo, I work with the Braves. So are we wasting our time or what? Right? The Braves trust me for 20 years. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I can't promise it's going to work for you, but I promise you one of the most prominent institutions on earth has trusted me for 20 years. That should be enough to be said.
I totally agree. And listen, I take that same answer, to the Georgia Bulldogs, to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and also associating ourselves with Solomon Brothers Jewelers, local to Atlanta, for sure, local sports teams and local fans. And that's what we're trying to bring in. And I do think that, people appreciate supporting their school as well. So I think that's where the schools come into play. For sure. And I've had multiple people tell me, Georgia fans, Georgia Tech fans, thank you for sponsoring. These are just alumni. This is not people selling anything. They have no idea what I even spent. They are basically saying thank you for supporting our local institution. So even with how much money Georgia gets and Georgia Tech and what's floating around there, and you walk on these campuses and they're unbelievable. Even with that, the alumni base still says, thank you for supporting. And I think they're saying, I don't think that they would walk up to Ed Bastian and say, hey, thank you for supporting, right? Because they're doing it for a very different reason. No. We actually, especially with the two local college teams, are actually trying to do it for local purposes. And
my hope is that especially in college sports with what's going on right now, that there is a mechanism of keeping that in place. So the reason that I said two things. One, the reason that I said I see this curve happening, do you know that the UFC will never do pay-per-view again? No. They sold the rights to Paramount for $6 billion. That Paramount is just going to play them to anyone who's a Paramount subscriber because the pay-per-view model killed boxing. Do you remember what the biggest sport in this country was in the
100%.
60s? It was boxing. You went to the 60s, even through the Tyson era of the 90s. Yeah. There was nothing bigger than boxing. Nobody even turns it on now. Because you're going to pay $75 to watch a pay-per-view for one time. Yeah. That pays for HBO Max for a year. Yeah. So that value proposition has changed.
They're turning on Netflix and watching Jake Paul and...
whatever they're watching. We'll save that for... and then I think that what scares me, and this is when we're going to bring the NIL into this, because let's talk a little bit about those sports partnerships. So for starters, when you talk about the players, the alumni being like, thank you, that's going to get more. Do you know Ohio State won the college football national championship last year? Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, do you know how much money that program lost? The athletic program of Ohio State lost last year?
I do not.
$50 million. They lost after winning a national championship.
Jeez.
They lost. Okay. And it is because the amount of staff, research all the things you need to get into the NIL game, right? On top of that,
Sure.
you are now pulling money from Peter to Rob Paul by pulling it away from sponsorship because you're ewing to a burgeoning business. So when they say thank you, those are the people who are the real fans who understand what's about to happen to college sports. And that's why I say, if they are not careful and they if they make this too premium, okay, of an experience, they are going to lose people very, 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 very quickly. And I'm worried about it. But I do think that that's where people like us come into play because they're not thanking Georgia Power. Right? Freddie, we love you, buddy.
Sorry, buddy.
But they're not thanking Georgia Power because they're too busy looking at their bills and paying for Plant Vogel. Like, they're too busy with a negative. They're thanking the local mom and pop businesses who they feel, they don't know what we spend. They don't know what Georgia Power spends.
Sure.
They see them next to each other. So it's, oh my God, Solomon, brother. It's like, you support what I support.
Yeah.
And whether you went to school there or not,
agreed.
The passion base, because it is a not-for-profit institution versus one of the worst things the Braves ever did was become a public corporation.
Right.
Because now anyone can look at a stock report and see that stock has tripled in price. No one's going to feel bad for the Braves. You know what I mean? So, and colleges do declare that stuff, and they have an obligation to, but you're seeing the very tip of the iceberg that they want you to see.
Yeah.
So they really are passionate about it. And I think sometimes it takes a little spark. And I think Georgia Tech is going to have that spark this year, where they get a little bit of wind at their back.
Yeah.
And you see how many fans come out of the woodworks. Like, this is the time.
For sure.
So talk a little bit about the Georgia deal. We can give our friend Shelby a shout out. She was instrumental in doing this, but also some of the ADs and just the relationship. But talk about why you wanted to start doing that. And then we'll talk a little bit about our deal, how it's structured, and give some people some kind of snippets of what's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute shout out to Shelby. She and I have been chatting about doing a deal since Indianapolis, actually, when we won the national championship. I don't know if you know. And beat Bama, but bring it on. And I was really gung-ho about doing something with the Dogs. Again, it's this kind of the whole state, and it really brings some power, some pedigree, as you mentioned. And it's I'm an alumni.
Yeah.
Obviously, my wife and I met at Georgia. And I love what the school's doing. I love what the school's representing. Kirby Smart, what he's doing over there. The whole university, we got to meet Lily, from the gymnastics squad, and she was great to work with. So we're using some of the athletes there, and it's really cool to see them having to have some responsibility, show up, perform. They're being paid. It's an NIL deal, and I thought the deal was really interesting. I thought that Shelby structured it really cool. I think that Nick, big shout out over here, structured it incredibly well, so that Solomon Brothers can be featured where it wants to be, where it needs to be. We're trying to be local. We're trying to reach out to real people. We are not trying to thump our chest about it. And so we wanted to go and record some content up there. You'll see some of that coming out. You can see it at Solomon Brothers on Instagram. And we'll be, putting some really cool content out there, which is what I really wanted.
I'm excited about the content. And look, this is what I'll say. As this becomes... there was a time period where we were just booming as a country, man. The past really 5 years, you could say since 2008, it has been a straight growth with some spurts, but whenever you get to a point of just where there's uncertainty, right, the negotiation tactics of the deals change, right? You're going to always have, right, any school that serves beer is going to have, a beer is going to pay exorbitant amount of money to do it, right? Some of these categories, Verizon, T-Mobile, any of these, it's like 30 cents falling out of the back of their pocket to do these sponsorships. Right? So those will always be there. But the schools that can connect directly to their fan bases via local businesses are starting to understand the value there. And what's ironic is some of the littler schools are missing that point. Because they're charging because they think, oh, you're working with Georgia. Well, let's just charge you $8 million because you're working with Georgia. But I found the bigger schools, and a shout out to my friends at Legends in Tech also, because we structured a really cool deal.
Awesome.
But that deal was because we bring a certain pedigree. Right? We know how to do the deals. They know that we're going to put the work on our end. Because one of the things I will tell you that's not going to happen, if you think you're going to sign a deal with a team and the work will be done for you, you are out of your mind. You are required to do so much of the heavy lifting, and you should be to make these things work. So look, the fact that Jaron didn't catch on fire when he started talking about Georgia Tech is nice for me. I'm glad to see that because I know it hits him deep down. But I also know how valuable the fan base is and how much feedback you've gotten already.
Shout out to Coach Key. He has been nothing but incredible. And
Shout
nice,
out to Coach Key. Yeah, that was fun. We got to play some golf with Coach, and I think he has what it takes, man. I really do. I think the ACC
Unfortunately, I think you're exactly right.
I think the ACC is wide open, and I think it's going to be interesting. And I think one of the things I'm so excited about when I left the sports world is this is going to force Jaron and I really to look at sports a little bit differently, especially football with NIL. Like you have the inside seat. I'll tell you this: the Braves won the World Series. Okay, so because of what happened in 2020, fast forward, but we were running all of the audio for the Braves throughout the world. Yeah. And because it just happened to be me that was the technological proficiency, it was running through my computer. So not only was I watching the game in the stadium, in the suite, but on my phone, I'm watching people ping all over the world and watching this data flow in.
Unbelievable.
And it was such a cool thing. And it's like I've been invited to Super Bowls and national championships, and I'm like, nope. That was the pinnacle. Like I don't need to go back.
That was it.
But that being said, I think end it with one or two of your favorite moments. Not necessarily about luxury, but I'm sure that was a part of it. I'm sure how you got up to Indianapolis and all that was quite a nice ride.
No, listen, I've been blessed to do some really cool things. Unfortunately, was at the Super Bowl in Houston for the Falcons Patriots, which was like the worst second half of my life.
Not just yours, bud.
You know,
probably the worst second half of an NFL game ever.
Yeah, not fun. It was pretty awesome to go back to Houston for the World Series where the Braves won it.
Sure.
And that was really cool to be in the stadium then. But, you know, I've got a shout out just from my favorite sporting event. You know, and you talk about luxury.
The Masters.
The Masters. You know, the Masters at the end of the day, bar none. Maybe it's just because it's once a year and whatnot. From a luxury, this is the Legacy of Luxury podcast. I think luxurious, really for everybody. And they even make peeling off a plastic bag on a pimento cheese sandwich feel good because they've just set that standard of cleanliness and what they do. So I really think it's cool.
But isn't it ironic? And this has something to do with Hermes and some of these most famous brands.
Yeah.
The ones that do the best are the ones that seem like they're trying the least hard.
Yeah.
Right? The Masters, don't get me wrong for a second. I understand that operation. Right? But like they don't even have brand names on the sodas and the beers. Like there's nothing there. And you know, it almost makes you think of something like the Savannah Bananas, who came out of nowhere with this fan first model of like there's going to be no sponsors.
So cool.
There's going to be no sponsors. And I just think that there's going to be so much change coming. I think the TV deals are going to get a little messy. And I think, unfortunately, it is going to be a luxury good because you're going to have to watch it. You know, to watch an NFL game, you need 16 different subscriptions, man.
It's incredible. And listen, that's the one, you know, knock I have on Mercedes-Benz Stadium. As cool of a stadium as it is, you know, if you want a good seat, you better be corporate. And that part of it doesn't sit overly well with me.
Yeah.
Hot dogs being $2, sodas being $2. I love it. Refillable sodas.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
And I agree because I think that they just scapegoat to it's Atlanta. There's a lot of demand, and it's like yeah, cool. Except how come there's nobody in the stadium when the team is there? Like you can't, and you lose these battles. And I feel like Arthur, as an owner specifically, has put so much into wanting to win. That it's blinded him a little bit from what it actually takes to win.
Yeah. And he's the best customer service guy that there is in the business. I mean, Home Depot, PGA Tour Superstore, like return whatever you want, do whatever you want. But I do think we missed the boat a little bit on there. And listen, shoot, you know this from your old days. It's a full-time job handing out tickets to your corporate sponsors. I mean, you got a whole spreadsheet. And what happens is you end up with empty.
They all want the same 10 tickets.
Yeah.
They all want to go to the Bills game. They all want to go to the same 10 tickets. And I will just throw this out there. If you are in the corporate world, take the bad tickets. You will have as good of experience as you will going to the most sold-out game. If you go, embrace it, and just let it roll. One of my favorite moments actually was with someone who works here, with Cheryl Lynn, when we went to the first United playoff game. Because United was nothing yet. No one even knew.
Right.
They offered me my own suite on the field at 6 a.m. I'm like, yeah. So Cheryl Lynn Cable, I mean, it was the coolest thing ever. You got to watch soccer playoff game on the field. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
right? Now, if they were going to charge me $50,000 to do that, I don't think it'd be the same experience.
Sure.
But just all I say is
Someone's paying it now.
Don't take for granted and enjoy those experiences. And it's not always the best matches and the most prominent ones that are going to be the ones you enjoy the most. So enjoy it. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty good. You know, we're excited to be a part of these teams.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those that come into the store, we've got some cool swag to give away. So
we do.
I love having the rights to a lot of these things. And, you know, we'll definitely check back in for those that are interested about how it goes, because I'm curious to see. It's our first year doing Georgia and Georgia Tech. And we'll have some good content coming out for Georgia. We're going to a couple of Tech games.
For sure.
Which I'm excited about, I guess. No, it's really Georgia Tech's going to be formidable this year. So I'm not excited to go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and watch them play the Dogs. But
I am excited. Seven overtimes will get anyone excited for the next matchup. So you've been listening to Legacy of Luxury. I don't think we talked jewelry at all.
yeah, come buy jewelry.
Come buy jewelry. Leave it at that. Take care.